This is Trina. We're at Hooters in Natomas, and you're listening to The Break It Down Show.
Hello, everybody. This is Wayne Wilson, and you are listening to The Break It Down Show.
And now, The Break It Down Show with John and Pete.
We are in the Natomas, and for the rest of the world, that means Sacramento.
Yeah.
Hooters restaurant, where they host us beautifully and take really good care of us and extend us an enormous amount of hospitality. And we are with the Pipes, the big man, fight announcer, Wayne Wilson. Man, I've been to so many fights that you've announced, and we've been talking about doing this for quite a while.
Indeed.
So I appreciate you finally allowing us to corral you.
I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah,
Thank you, John.
man. And it only took, hey, let's meet somewhere.
Right.
And then we just came running and gunning up here.
We said, we got wings. And he's like, I got time.
Well,
Matter of fact,
Tater tots? Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, if we go to the Natomas Hooters, I got wings on account. And he does.
Right. We showed
And
up.
the funny thing is, there's actually a story behind the wings, and a lot of the Muay Thai fighters will tell you that's like my post-fight ritual.
Okay.
It has, and it just started from like the very first show that I did, just a big order of wings, and every successful show after that, it's got to be something spicy, and usually it's wings or sushi.
Okay.
Yeah, it just how it worked out.
I mean, that's the finish. What people don't realize, if you guys are out there and you are not fight fans, when you have a fight event and you are, in essence, the master of ceremonies for the most masculine night that a person can possibly have.
Right.
There's so much raging excitement. Now, I am a security professional for a living. And the things that I do are typically assignments where we go into places that are real, real hot. So you don't know we're there, but we're there for when the shit starts.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you, I don't, because I do that for a living, I don't get frightened too much. But man, when you go to these events, you have the fighters, of course, who have been training for this event, who are in top shape, who are just, you've announced so many tremendous fighters.
Indeed. It's been a blessing, really, man.
And they bring their camp with them.
Yes.
So typically what I do is I'll find myself in the middle of a room, and I think, and this is what I do whenever I'm in a room, and this is what Pete does, I know, you just take that mental note of how do I get out of here, and who do I gotta, who I gotta get through to get out.
And it's funny you say that. Luckily, a lot of the events that I do, a lot of the promoters that I work with are very family-friendly oriented shows, but every now and then you got the one guy who's just like,
one guy
shouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah.
Whether he's
he
drunk
has to
or
be
sober.
dealt with.
Right.
Yeah.
And you got to think about it. And it's like, really? And that
there's
same scenario
nobody in
plays
that
out.
room, man. You look through that room and you go, there's no good way out of here.
No, because everybody who's trained to fight, who can fight, is like standing right in front of you.
And usually, now, when you see these guys too, the fighters, you expect like a guy who's a physical specimen.
Right.
But they're bringing their camp with them.
Right.
Which usually means a dozen guys.
Yeah, or more.
Who are physical specimens. And you just look around the room. Now, the other thing that I will say about the fights and the promoters that you work with
Yes.
are, like you said, family friendly and all that stuff. There's so much love in the room.
There is, and that's the other part too. Even when fights break out, you got all these guys, that's the other half of the equation, that can fight, but they don't.
Yeah.
They're quick to de-escalate a situation versus, let's make this into an all-room brawl, which is what I love, especially about working Muay Thai shows, because, the love and respect is just there.
Yep.
And
It
it
is.
makes a great time.
And amongst all those professionals, we're talking about guys who, the element of surprise typically when you're trying to get out of a room works in your favor. You hit the one dude in the face. There's two other dudes who go, wait a minute, I'm going to think twice about getting hit in the face. But when you're in a room with 300 dudes who get hit in the face for a living, you find that these guys are the first to go, hey, man, we ain't trying to hit each other in the face.
Exactly.
And like you said,
It's all love.
they're the fastest to de-escalate.
Yep.
I have witnessed, and I know you have too, such tremendous sportsmanship
Yes.
and just mutual respect. It's a great gathering. You've recently hosted something that was you've hosted a couple of nights that were very special to me.
Okay.
And I'll just go through those, but and we'll talk about.
Before we get too far
Your
away,
path.
and after all the sportsmanship, love, and everything,
Yeah.
we do have to add also that if you walk into a bar and you see someone's Mexican grandpa and that guy says, better watch out, I'm fast, you'd better watch out.
Yeah, that's true.
Because that-
Because that's what we learned from Tony the Tiger Lopez.
Yeah.
He's he's no longer a young man.
No.
And but he was the champ.
Yeah.
He was the world
You're the
champ.
champ of the goddamn world.
Yeah.
Right, world champ.
And you're right, man. When you've got a guy who looks like somebody's grandpa, and he goes, "Hey, take it easy."
Yeah.
You might want to consider taking it easy.
Right, right.
But all the guys that we're talking about are the guys who recognize that. Like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
really? Huh? Okay, I'll take it easy for you. You hosted the professional debut of Steve Swabby Clacken,
Yes.
of whom we are big fans. You
Love
hosted the
Steve.
professional debut and a few times of fights of Eddie Abasolo,
Yep.
who is, man, I love Eddie.
He's
and
a
Beef
tremendous
so much.
athlete and a great person. I mean,
You're right.
he's going to Thailand, I think.
He's in
pretty
Thailand
soon.
now.
Yeah, that's right. He's in Thailand now. And, definitely wish him, safe travels and a safe journey while he's out there. And just, I can't wait to hear his experiences when he gets back.
Oh, I know, man. He and B both were on the show, and B would say, I remarked about, wow, Thailand, how exciting. And she said, man, you should go.
Yeah.
Plane tickets are pretty reasonable right now. You should go. And I just thought, yeah, what am I going to do when I get over there? I'm going to go, hey, yeah, you're going to go train, Eddie? I'll go with you. And I'll show up and I'll get annihilated by some probably 12-year-old kid with a
Oh, yeah.
shin that's just developed in a way that I've never seen.
Oh, yeah.
But and then most recently, you hosted the MMA debut of little Bobby Ceronio.
Yes, that was a great fight.
And man, we've known the Ceronio family since Bobby was a baby, since before Bobby was a baby. And he, as well, is just a tremendous athlete.
He is.
And really a terrific, loving, respectful human being. So.
Definitely.
Thank you for those lovely moments in my life, man.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I mean, I'm just honored to be a part of them. Really, a lot of these fighters, they train so hard to get where they're at. The amateurs and the pros, and even guys like Steve, who went pro but gives back a lot in the amateur side.
Yeah.
He still corners fighters, and of course now he's a professional EMT.
Yep.
So he's taking care of the fighters with the Bay Area Challenge with the one, not the one that was a couple of weeks ago, but the one before that.
Yeah.
He was sitting ringside in his EMT uniform.
Always ready.
Always ready.
Always helping. Yeah, man. Just some tremendous human beings that we've met in these circles. And, they push themselves to the limit. They call upon themselves to do some really, really spectacular things. And we're big supporters. But when you show up, man, you have a way of guiding the evening that allows the rest of us to sit back and enjoy it. And because you're talking about fighters who are typically either just beginning their MMA career or not too far along. I mean, typically when somebody is crossing paths with you, you're announcing someone who's maybe 4-1, or they got 5 or 6 professional fights under their belt, or this is their first one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you do a lot of amateur fights too.
I do. I love working with the amateurs. I mean, like I said, just the energy and the excitement, the passion is there. These guys are always hungry.
Yeah.
Even the professionals, though, the fights that I've done professionally, both MMA and pro boxing. I mean, it's just amazing, the energy in the room.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys, like, with Ed and Xavier Vignes and, and Steve, that I've had the honor of doing all their amateur fights, and now they're professional
As
fights.
they were coming up,
As
yeah.
they were coming up. I mean, just literally watching them grow and progress in the sport and, their evolution. And it's just amazing, and I'm just honored, to be here. Truly a blessing,
There's a guy who I would like for you to keep your eye out for. He's a young Muay Thai fighter who is, I think probably about 11 years old right now. But you announced one of his fights, actually, a while back. He is young Thomas McElroy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do you know who his dad is?
I've seen his dad.
His dad is Tommy McElroy,
Yes.
who achieved his notoriety with his partner Denzel Foster.
Okay.
Foster and McElroy. They were, responsible for En Vogue and Club Nouveau and a lot of other things. And he's a friend of the show and listens to every
Well, in the music
episode.
business, yes.
Yeah. So
Man, we love Tommy. We gotta get Tommy.
we
Tommy,
gotta
we gotta do a follow up.
Tommy, come back. He said, I said, hey, we're going to, who Wayne Wilson is? He said, yeah, I know who Wayne Wilson is, man. The Pipes. And if
Appreciate
Tommy
it.
McElroy,
That's huge.
if Tommy
That
McElroy
is-
recognizes you as the Pipes, man, that's
that's
something. He
that is
said that
huge.
you announced one of young Tommy's, but young Tommy is bad.
He is.
And he's
He is.
very disciplined like his dad.
Yep. And he's also, he's quick, like a lot of young fighters, they'll forget to go to the corner, shake hands. The first thing he does after the fight, bow to his, to his opponent and then his corner, greet them. And I'm just like, wow, didn't have to be coached, told to do it. He just automatically, boom, like clockwork. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, they're raising a
Just got
solid
it.
human
Yeah.
being, Tommy and Renee. Anyway, tell us how you got started in this whole thing,
Oh
man.
my gosh, there's There's the long version of the story, but I'm going to try to keep it as short as condensed. I'll give you the condensed version.
All right.
It was weird. I mean, prior to doing ring announcing, I had a career in radio, and then did public speaking. You still do public speaking, very events. So crowds for me are I love them. I kind of feed off them, but it's kind of weird. Like a one-on-one situation, I'm what they call it introverted extrovert, or vice versa rather. I love the crowds, but one-on-one is like Johnny Carson back in the day.
Yeah, right.
After the show, I'm going to be in my dressing room just chilling by
Just
myself.
right. Left alone.
But it was a couple of years ago, my birthday weekend of all things, and there was a comedy show that I went to up at Tommy T's and Rancho.
Yeah.
And they announced there was going to be a kickboxing match there. And the promoter, Johnny Davis from AK Promotions, was there. And we just started talking. He tells me about the show and what's going on. We're just like, you got a nice voice. And I'm like, well, thanks. And I told him about my background a little bit. And we both kind of just paused and looked at each other. I asked him who he had for an announcer. And he's like, I don't have one yet. And we both paused again. I met him in his office. We talked about a few things. I did a quick audition for him. And that's how it all got started.
And the quick audition was undownedly quick. It only takes a second.
Literally like 10, 15 minutes. I mean, he just went down, the structure of his show and how he wanted things to run. And, Johnny ran a very, 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 he still runs actually, a very tight show. I mean, very, a very tight ship. And some of the best, Muay Thai, like I said, a lot of these guys got started with him.
Yeah.
And it just started from there, one thing after another. And then next thing you know, more promoters are getting a hold of me. And, it's really an honor and blessing now because people are looking for me. Like you said, my voice is recognizable now among various promoters and whatnot, and that's how it all got started.
How big is your sphere of influence? Because there must be you have peers, and maybe they do wrestling or something. I mean, MMA and boxing are probably and Muay Thai are going to be the main thing, but. If someone's going to have a fight in Red Bluff, do they call you? Do they call the guy from Portland? Or, how does that work?
It all depends. It all depends. I mean, there are some times, they want to use the local guy or, it's a friend of the promoter or, something along those lines. But like this summer, I was shocked. The guys from Olive Promotions asked me to do the WBO junior featherweight title with the Apagara brothers.
Wow.
In San Mateo, and that was my biggest fight ever. I mean, broadcast live, here in the U.S. and the Philippines and in Mexico.
Yeah.
And, when I got that call.
International audience.
And, it was like only 2,000 to 3,000 people in the venue, in San Mateo. When I hung up the phone, I just had to pause for a minute. My wife comes in, she's like, what's going on? And I tell her what happened, and, she's excited. I'm excited. My daughter comes in, she's excited. And it's just one of those things where I'm just like, wow.
Ooh, it just got more exciting here because
Kelly.
The lovely Kelly is bringing us food.
Kelly.
This is the one of the things I love about
You can go
Kelly
over there, it's fine. We're gonna share.
is she has given us these amazing food suggestions.
Yes.
We're three big dudes. We're pretty easy to please, but on the other hand, we also have discerning palates.
Yes.
So it's a magical combination, and Kelly just hit it right on the head.
Exactly.
So, yeah, man, I'm glad that it's growing organically for
Indeed.
you and that now let's talk about this because it's not just your background or how it started for you in the fight circles.
Right.
But your background, of course, plays into it. You said
does.
you had a background in radio. What'd you do?
A lot. Actually, I did a lot of talk radio down in the Bay Area and here in Sacramento.
Okay.
Worked for a couple of talk stations up here and actually started a community radio station about 10 years ago, the 97.5. Back then it was 97.7 KDE. And I was responsible for helping getting that station up and on the air. Its very first 2 years in the air were under my leadership.
Wow.
So very, very honored to be a part of that. And, definitely shout out to the guys that are there now. They're doing a fantastic job. One of the larger, community stations in the country. And they've got it right.
Carrying the torch.
They are. They're doing a great job.
Terrific.
Mainly production and talk radio. A lot of politics, back in the recall.
Yeah.
Ray Davison back in 03, 02.
Okay.
A couple other significant events, then of course, Hurricane Katrina coverage and a lot of local events. I mean, it's just, like you said, the spirit of influence, not just in the fight world, but politically, and you find out how those all intertwine because, one of the hurdles in getting events booked is booking venues, and some cities are friendlier than others, and so it helps, when a city council person or a mayor or, a congressman that can help you move those things along.
Yeah. Get the spots done and get things, like you said, moving along. That does not seem like it would play into what you're doing now, announcing fights, but it really does.
It does.
Because you had to learn not only the behind the scenes part of making the show happen, which everybody, of course, discounts. Pete's got hot sauce coming out of his nose.
Hang in there, buddy.
But you also have to.
I can't eat 2 wings at once anymore.
He's trying to eat. This is a fat dude move right here. He's got a wing in each paw.
I'm
He's
competing
biting them at the same time.
I'm saying.
a wild dog. There's wings out there. I got to get them.
But also just the cadence and the
Right.
getting people to it's sucking them in.
And that's the thing. The radio, the background really, really helps, and even the public speaking, just because learning the cadence.
Yeah.
And one of my things, I always talk really fast, and learning how to slow down, to get control of the crowd, to acknowledge, let them acknowledge your words and your actions, and how it feeds back and forth. And, I see a lot of announcers that are really good at it.
Yeah.
I see a lot of announcers that aren't so good at it. And, for me, being an announcer, it's really not about me. Mm-hmm. And that plays into it as well. Because
Yeah, absolutely.
especially with the youth, there's some fights I won't even get in the ring because I want them to focus on the two.
You want the
athletes in the
shine
ring.
to be on,
exactly
on the athletes.
right.
And you are a pretty large and potentially imposing guy. So if there are two athletes, especially junior athletes, who aren't big,
right.
nobody's going to see them if you don't let them have the spotlight.
Exactly, but I want to give them that experience also too. Of this is what it sounds like,
Right.
as you progress in the sport.
That's
as
so
you get up there.
huge.
Yeah,
To be announced.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
to
yeah.
be announced with the control and enthusiasm.
and they
Because
love it.
it seems like the mistake that I don't want to say a bad announcer, but a less experienced, a less poised announcer will make is to go too fast
Right.
and to lack clarity.
Right.
And the thing that is apparent with you, as soon as you step in the ring, let's face it, you're a big guy and you wear a tuxedo. So everybody knows when you show up, it's like, oh, it's time to pay attention.
Right.
But you do guide the crowd in with a clarity and an eloquence and dynamics that help us to understand, like, this is the moment. We're paying attention to the moment. And here comes the moment.
Indeed.
And you play right into it. So I appreciate that about you. And
Oh, thank you.
I know
Appreciate
that on a technical level, people don't always notice. But, those of us who have
professionals like you, yes.
earphones on all the time.
I appreciate it.
We listen to it and you go, you know what? I hear every word. I understand what's happening. I know what my reaction is going to be because I can feel you coaxing it out of the crowd.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, you bring us up, you bring us up, you bring us up, and here comes the fighter.
Yes.
And man, it makes for such a huge difference in how the fight begins because the fighters do absolutely feed on it. And it's great. It's a lot of fun.
Indeed.
You want to eat some wings, man? You wanna
I
take a
do.
little time
These
out?
bacon wrapped. Oh my gosh, bacon wrapped wings.
Did they wrap wings in bacon?
wrapped wings and bacon.
I got some with and some without. So if you're afraid of the bacon,
How dare they?
Afraid of bacon? I don't know if there is such a thing.
Yeah. Some of our Twitter followers and stuff are going to see that we are three dudes who look like we are no strangers to things wrapped in bacon and deep fried wings. And that's the truth.
Oh, these are delicious.
yeah. These are the Daytona sauce that was recommended to us.
Yeah.
You lived in Daytona, didn't you, Pete?
Right? Not Daytona, south of that, but Lauderdale.
Oh, okay.
But I raced at Daytona.
Why is this Daytona sauce? Is there a reason that this is Daytona sauce?
Hooters is from Florida, right?
Yeah, I think I went to their first location, which was in St. Pete.
Okay. Not across the state, though.
Yeah. Across the state, on the Gulf side. I've been a Hooters fan since before Hooters came to the West Coast.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to say on the microphone, I love Hooters. I'm a fan of Hooters.
Hooters in general.
You will not be disappointed.
Yeah. I couldn't wait. I was starving. I was hungry before we even started leaving. Like, I got to eat something.
Oh, I hear you, man. It's been a long day. These are so good.
Yeah. They're really good.
But what happened at the end of that Cerronio fight, man? What was with the cards?
Okay.
They handed you the wrong.
Well, long story short, and like I said, I should have noted, I should have caught this earlier because, when I watched the fight, it was clear to me Cerrone had won. I looked at the scores.
practically every aspect of the fight.
Yeah, I looked at the scores and they pointed to his opponent's name. And I looked and I'm like, are you sure? And pointed, they gave me the score, 30-27. They pointed to the other name, but then when I announced the other name, then they hold the scorecard
They
up
were
to
like,
the cage.
no.
And they had Cerroneo's name circled. And I'm like, well, you can't point to a fighter's name and tell me the winner
Yeah.
and point to a fighter. That's who I'm going to call.
Right.
But like I said, normally I would have the scorecards with me, but for whatever reason, they had them, table side. But that's what happened.
There was a mutiny.
Oh, it was. And like I said, and I take full responsibility, and I apologize profusely to both camps because I don't mean any disrespect at all. And it's my job as an announcer, it's to, like I said, to keep that enthusiasm going. because I've seen that kill entire events. You know, it was a mistake. It was, and it's something I try hard not to do. But if it is done, you know, I do what I can to make it right.
I say that because there are going to be listeners. I mean, you saw that crowd that was there for Bobby.
Oh, of course, he had like a whole section.
He did. And it was apparent because when the heavyweights came up afterwards, that whole section took off. That was kind of a Steve Harvey moment. But, you know, I mean, it wasn't that bad. It was all ended up being a happy ending. And everybody can understand the mistake.
It happens.
I'll tell you what I enjoyed about it, though, was that both fighters, the fighter who lost the fight, and I don't recall his name, but I'm not avoiding his name on purpose, but, you know, he was happy. He was like, oh, I won. And at that moment, I felt like Bobby remained composed.
He did.
And then when you made the correction, Bobby got happy. The other fighter remained composed.
He did.
And this feeds back to what we were talking about earlier, where this is just, man, these guys go in there and it looks like, to the average person who doesn't understand what's going on in the training and how this is just the culmination of months and months and typically years and years of training.
Yep.
That the level of sportsmanship is what it is.
Indeed. It was Miguel Alvarez. That was his name.
Miguel Alvarez.
Yeah.
And hats off to Miguel Alvarez
And
because, like I said,
they were just class acts. Through.
everybody. I was there rooting for Bobby. I wanted Bobby to win. When I saw Miguel Alvarez, and I said that Bobby won every category, and I think he did, but I also think every single category was close. Alvarez fought a great fight. He's a terrific fighter. I can't wait to see him again because he's exciting. He did a great job. And I'll root for him as long as he's not fighting Bobby.
I know, right? No, I'm definitely looking forward to big things out of Bobby Cerrone. I mean, gosh, he just his athleticism, his poise, his demeanor. You've seen plenty of fights. You know, some fighters come in, especially their first fight, and they're too tense. You know, they're over focused, if that's such a thing. But Bobby had fun, and that's one thing I noticed. A lot of the fighters that really do really well, they have fun. I mean, they're focused. Don't get me wrong. They're not, they're not taking anything lightly at all. But they're relaxed. They're composed. They're focused, but they're having fun. They are enjoying every single moment in that ring or in that cage. And
one of our students, Julius, came with us. Younger guy, he's in high school. And one of his comments was, man, when it started, I didn't get why Bobby didn't come out at 10 immediately. And my comment was, he was savoring the moment.
Yep.
This is his debut. I think both fighters did a great job of, at the bell, they came in, the intensity didn't wane.
Right.
But you could tell that they were both just, we're in this right now. Let's enjoy this thing. And man, it was great.
It was. I mean, it was definitely a fight to remember.
We are eating cheese-covered, bacon-drizzled tater tots.
This is like killing my diet this week because I'm like down 10 pounds from like a week and a half ago.
Oh, man.
And it's been going up and down all year, man. But
we're going to get you back in that cummerbund, Wayne.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. You'll trust me, the next fight in January, you will see
one of my least favorite fighters is Ronda Rousey.
Really?
Because I respect the fight ability. I don't respect her attitude. I don't think she pays respect. They're in an emerging division. People are trying to sell tickets. And when you don't shake fighters' hands as a regular, I got a problem with that. I don't want to see that. I want to see warriors who respect the warrior code.
Right.
And you before the fight, especially because we all know you're trying to sub. Maybe you guys truly don't like each other, but whoever you're fighting, whoever your opponent is, they put in hours.
Oh, yeah.
Out of respect for your fight game.
Yep.
And even if you don't like him when they called your mama bad names, you've got to respect that.
You do.
Those people all came out and paid money. That makes the entire UFC product to me less palatable because I don't want to see that.
Right, because it carries on to other fighters too. I mean, you see that more now. And other fighters now too. And you're like, wait a minute, what's really going on here? But which is another reason why, the people that I work with, because you don't really see that a lot. And, say Muay Thai and pro boxing, you can hate each other for those, each of those 3-minute rounds.
Right.
But after the fight, you may still not like each other, but you're going to respect what just happened.
Here's the other thing is Tommy McElroy's son can go in the ring. I promise you that will not happen, no matter how bad a whooping or how much talking there was before the fight. Because you're not only disrespecting the other fighter, you're disrespecting your entire training career because you've not been taught that way.
Right.
I hope that doesn't become a norm where that's part of the show.
I doubt it. I don't think it will because, like I said, more and more people have caught on to that. and you see it more and more. Like it's the part of the fight that people have to remember. Like I said, you respect your opponent. You know, you respect your sport, and out of respect for, if nothing else, yourself in the sport, you know, you at least greet your opponent, you know, with that same respect, because they trained just as hard, if not harder, than you did. You know, you both fought just as hard in that ring, you know, or in the cage, and it just needs to be shown.
So let's get back to how you got to the fight game. What role did you play in the world of fights? Were you a fight fan? Did you fight as a kid?
I was a huge fight fan, and that's the thing with Johnny. Part of our conversation, you know, talking to each other, found out that we were both, you know, in San Jose at the same time, and a lot of the shows, even going back to like a lot of the Scott Coker shows he used to do in San Jose, you know, we were there. We were both there.
Those were excellent.
I remember going down to San Jose, you know, the event center, San Jose State, you know, where I went to school. And, you know, Chuck Norris would always come through, and he'd sit right next to you, cool as a fan, like a regular guy. I mean, he'd talk to you, you know.
Yeah.
He wasn't stuck up or anything like that, but, you know, he expected to watch the fight, so he didn't want a bunch of groupies, which I totally understood.
He's really a fighter.
He's really a fighter.
Yeah.
But he's also he's just a really, you know, for him to just come and just sit next to anybody, it was like, whoa, that's Chuck Norris. And I'm sitting next to him, you know what I mean? So,
Yes.
that was huge. But I grew up a huge fight fan.
Yeah.
You know, grew up on old school boxing, you know, Sugar Ray Leonard, you know, a lot of his fights. You know, I remember, you know, watching tape, you know, because I was really young, you know, the Duran, Leonard, you know, saga.
Yeah, we had to go back and watch those fights.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. But I mean, just, you know, and then of course, you know, Tyson dominated, you know, the 90s. And I mean, it's just a huge fan of sports. And then of course, you know, kickboxing, I always thought it was cool. I thought it was, you know, just like the coolest thing, period.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, whoa, these guys can box and they can kick?
Yep.
You know, and then of course,
Like,
who didn't?
it's on now.
Yeah. And of course, you know, and some of the larger, you know, the more exciting fights, you know, you'll hear me scream woo, you know, like the high pitch woo, you know, at the end of the fight. And of course, that's a homage to WWF or now WWE, because, you know, who didn't watch WWE growing back in the day? Well, back, you know, it was WWF, and I'm dating myself here. But,
Right.
But yeah, huge fan of the sport. And of course, you know, look, and it's
It's
funny you
also
mention
paying
that.
homage to Keith Sweat. Anyway.
John and Pete.
Hey, everybody. If you like the Break It Down show,
I can dig it.
And of course you do.
of course you do, hit that subscribe button.
John and Pete.
It helps us out.
Hey, if you're going to like the show on Facebook or on Twitter, it helps us out if you share the show so people can learn about it. So liking it is great. Sharing is even better.
Let's do some spy stuff.
Yeah, just
Let's
sneak
get
in
all
there.
our friends' phones and have them subscribe to the Break It Down show. Do it. Subscribe. Listen to the show. If you love the show, tell 5 of your friends. Or if you hate the show, tell 5 of your friends.
No, and it's funny that you mentioned, you know, in terms of how all this came full circle, because WWE, believe it or not, actually had a huge part in me getting started with, you know, ring announcing. One of my early mentors.
Was Mean Gene Okerlund?
No,
Gene Okerlund.
no, I love
with the pull. He fell out with Mean Gene.
And I can also go Gene Mean and go Iron Sheik style. Yes, Gene Mean.
Gene Mean. Yeah.
I love Mean Gene. I mean, gosh, that dude. You could just have conversations about his antics the next day by himself, you know. But Michael Porter, who was a ring announcer in WWE, was actually one of my early mentors.
Oh, wow.
Back in the MySpace days, and
kidding.
I don't even remember how we connected. You know, we just started. We connected on a mutual page or something. And I'm like, you're a WWE ring announcer. That is so cool. And he told me his story. Of course, you know, he used to go on the road and you know, just how he got started in the business and, you know, the do's and don'ts, the ins and outs. And of course, back then, you weren't just a ring announcer. You were a ring announcer, but you helped set up the ring. You helped break down the, you know, lights and everything after the show.
Yeah,
you drove the trucks.
Right. You
arrived
with the circus.
Exactly.
You helped
You
put
were
up
part
the
of the circus, right?
And during the circus, you might catch a chair.
Yeah, and the sad part about that, though, because, you know, I told him after I booked that first fight, you know, with AK Promotions, you know, I told him, hey, man, I finally did it. You know, I got my first gig. And then come to find out, he never responded. And I'm like thinking, was it something I said or, you know, what happened? And then come to find out he had passed away. And I'm just like, wow, that was really, really devastating because, you know, the guy that had been talking, I mean, I was honored that he would take time out and talk to me, you know, who's Wayne Wilson, you know, at the time.
Right.
And, you know, for him, you know, to guide me and give me all the advice and the words of encouragement that he did. And then, of course, you know, we never really got to see that next level.
Yeah.
You know, couldn't even show him the tape or anything because I found he had passed away like a week or so before that first fight even took place.
Wow.
But that's my other connection, you know, to with WWE and announcing was guys like him.
Well, that's a huge thing because they did a better job than anybody
Oh gosh, they did,
at creating spectacle.
and they still do. I mean,
And still do, yeah. I mean, they're in the spectacle business. And fights in general sure are, but they really just
Indeed.
kick it up a notch.
they do. I mean, you gotta love it.
I also want to acknowledge that I love Chuck Norris.
Oh gosh, who does?
You know, of course, we'd love to have Chuck Norris on the show. That's just even silly to say. But I want to acknowledge that one of my, I've been fortunate enough that one of my teachers is Steve Muhammad, who back in the day was Steve Sanders, who as a fighter in the fight career was the only person to ever beat Chuck Norris.
Yep.
No kidding.
Yeah. So I don't know if I ever can get him to listen to the show.
It's a small world.
But see,
you know-
Joe Steve, if you're out there, you know, we love you.
Another thing, you know, I went to high school with a guy by the name of Shane Mosley.
Ah, yes.
No, Sugar Shane. This is
Pretty
before.
damn
You know, he was. He of course he actually graduated with my older sister.
Did you
but
you grew up in Pomona?
I'm from Pomona. I grew up
Okay.
in Pomona, born and raised. And then, of course, you know, watching
My
him fight
cousin
at the
is
YMCA.
Tina Washington. Do you know Tina Washington? She bore Shane Mosley Jr.
Yes.
And,
Oh my
so that's
gosh, this is
my
a
cousin.
really
What's
small
up, Tina?
world.
Yep.
Okay, now everybody in Pomona, of course, knows me as Bernard because that's not my name. My middle name. So
Okay.
yeah. And it's just one of those things.
This
you know.
is a really small world.
It is a
man.
very
This is
small
fun.
world.
Wow.
So I paused. I'm like, wait a minute, what? You
I
know?
can't. Yeah, you know what? And Little Shane is having
Having
himself
pretty good-
quite a
yeah,
run.
He's having a good career so far.
He's good at knocking fools out. I think I don't remember what the stat is, but he's got like four professional fights under his belt, and the grand total of all of his fights has been like 6.5 minutes.
Man,
He just
Yeah.
knocks fools out.
how cool was that though for him to be on the same card as his dad though?
Yeah, man.
That's pretty neat.
That
Yeah.
is.
Even little Ray Leonard didn't get to do that.
George
Nope.
Foreman either. Yeah.
Right.
George's Foreman,
Yeah.
none of them.
Well, yeah.
I saw Sugar Shane fight De La Hoya in Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
What a great fight that was.
It was.
And you must have experienced this where the fight you see on TV is not the fight that happens in the ring.
Right.
And they're so fast in real life, you don't get to see the TV replay and
Right.
And so when I saw the fight, I saw a different outcome. It was much closer than what the scorecard had it. How often do you see something where you're just like, this just doesn't jive with what my eyes are seeing?
Well, it happens a lot. And one of the hardest things for me after a fight or even after an event is when people walk up to me afterward and say, Wayne, who do you think won that fight? And, I have a saying, the guy that is on his feet at the end of the fight is the winner. Everybody else has a 50-50 shot.
Right.
Because, like you said, I don't know what each judge is different. I've worked with hundreds of judges, tens of, judges and whatnot over the years. And everybody's opinion is different. Some go on more control, some go on, more technique, some go on more aggression, some go on that they get the big hit. And it's all relative.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I have a criteria
Yeah.
too, like that I judge fights on, and
Right.
I'm typically in line with the judges, but I have to understand that, my default is basically this round was tied. Like
Right.
that's where my scoring starts.
Yep.
And like Sugar Ray Leonard used to come in and try to steal rounds, and that's cool. But everybody knows he's doing that, so that may not affect the judge.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
some judges it does. It's like, oh, well, he ended the fight well, or he
Right.
won that because fights are won by rounds,
Right.
And it's like, well, he won that round because of what he did in the last minute and a half. And it's all relative. And so, but yeah, there are a lot of fights. I don't want to go into specifics for obvious
Sure,
reasons,
yeah,
but that I look and even because I have friends in the ring and I'm like, oh, I'm grimacing and I'm trying hard not to let it on, but like, dang, they didn't win. I thought they won. The crowd thought they won, but the judges had another opinion.
Yeah.
And it's difficult sometimes, heck, it's difficult all the time, but to announce somebody that you didn't, or for whatever reason, may have not won that fight.
And your job is to be impartial and
It is.
to bring the crowd the event. But yeah, you're a human being sitting there watching that fight, and you have your own thoughts about it as well. So
Indeed.
it takes a professionalism that, of course, comes with the polish and the time and all of that stuff that allows you to deliver the event, even though in the back of your mind you're thinking, this fool almost got knocked out.
Yeah, and that happened too. Gosh, I can't tell you how many times I've seen somebody get close to knocked out, and they read the scorecards, and I'm like, how were you up 3 points?
Right.
What fight were you watching?
Yeah.
But it happens. And then there are, of course, the occasions where it's like, it's literally a coin toss. I wish we could do one more round, But when
you can't.
we can't, yeah.
You said something earlier that struck me as going to your level of professionalism. You're talking to different audiences.
Mm-hmm.
You are absolutely calling this fight for the crowd. I mean, that's your main purpose for being there. But you do recognize that the fighter gets something from this. You know, like Vin Scully would do. He was great at this. Like,
Yes.
you've got this career moment. Let me put this tag on it. It's like, here we are. Here's the date. Here's the time. Here's the thing. So that, yes, all the audience gets that set, but that's also for Sandy Koufax or Clayton Kershaw, whoever it's going to be.
To commit it to posterity.
Right, and do it so he's talking to different audiences as well as your boss.
Yeah.
You know, the guy that's cutting the checks, like, you know, I've got certain marks I've got to hit. So you're working for a lot of different people, and I don't think anybody even understands the complexity of your job. Seems simple. You hold the mic, you say, "Here are the
He's
fighters."
just
That's
saying
it.
words.
Right. You know, and it's hard, especially with a lot of amateur events, because you're doing so much more than just announcing in the ring.
Yeah. You're coordinating the event.
Right. You're literally the ringmaster, if you will. You know, you're coordinating with the DJ and the fighters and the camps and and the crowd.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you take it to the next level with television, because now you have to play the crowd in the building and the crowd on TV.
And you can't see them.
Exactly. And, you know, you're taking your cues from the production assistant or from, you know, whoever, you know, is in your camp, and making sure that...
Oh, it's Kelly.
I know, right?
I don't mean to cut you off,
Oh, no,
but
it's
it's
all
Kelly.
good.
And Kelly, can you get us some more protein? What do you suggest? The Daytona wings, by the way,
Yeah, we're
knockout
wonderful.
hit.
Let's
Yeah.
do that again.
Maybe we'll
Let's do that again. Let's make it easy.
with the bacon. Those were wonderful.
Yeah, those were wonderful.
Yeah.
What else? What else you
Should
got
we do
for
a
us?
Kelly's choice?
Do you have anything?
Yeah, let's do. Do you want to do? Like
By the
one
way,
more
for our
thing?
listeners, there are some things that we're in Hooters, of course. So Kelly's a damn knockout.
Yeah.
I have the nicest set of titties.
I mean, she said
She's
it.
got the. Let's. You know what? I'm just gonna go stem to stern. Beautiful hair, all the way down. Gorgeous face, so expressive. Lovely eyes, beautiful smile, dimples, cute as a button.
Great attitude.
Yeah.
I got a degree.
I didn't even look at your titties. I'm gonna look at them bad boys now, though.
Yeah, let me make sure those things are good.
Look,
Whoa,
she's jiggling
holy
them
God.
for us. Holy
That was so
moly!
provocative, I couldn't look.
Yeah.
Sorry. Bacon wrap with 6
Seriously, them titties are bad as hell.
Yeah.
Do 10.
Cool.
Yeah. So, one of the things I wanted to reiterate about Pete's point, though, was that when you have somebody who is the ringmaster, like the great Vin Scully,
Right.
there is the timestamp, and he's respectful of the moment
Yes.
because, hey, let's get out of the way of the epic thing that is happening. But that's the balancing act with the other side of the equation, which is when you play in the blue heaven of Dodger Stadium, you have to understand that Vin's talking.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what happens in these amateur events, especially because the pros by now, pros that we've mentioned, came up with you. But the amateurs, they show up and they're doing their thing and they trained all year and they're ready for this event. But man, when Wayne Wilson steps in the ring and he's in a tuxedo and he grabs the mic and he announces you, it's time for you to come up and do your thing.
Showtime, baby.
It is showtime.
That's it.
So, you know, I mean, you elevate, it's not just for the crowd,
Right.
it's for the fighter. You elevate the event for the fighter so
Yes.
that you understand, as a fighter, you understand it's time.
Oh, yeah. And they're
It's
ready.
like that first time a band hears our song on the radio. Like, you're the radio, like, someone else said my name and I'm going to fight
you know,
somebody.
it's funny when you watch, especially, you know, people that are making their debuts, especially in the amateurs, you know, and sometimes, you know, so depending on the venue, you can see their eyes light up when they hear their name called. And that does something, you know, special for me because, you know, a lot of times they'll come to me after the fight, man, especially if I have a difficult to pronounce name,
Yep.
you know, and they're like, you pronounced my name correct the first time.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
That's pre-production right there.
It is.
You
It
do
is.
your homework there.
and that's
yes,
being a
yes.
pro.
Not only did you pronounce it, but you enunciate it.
Yes.
I mean, everybody in the arena knows what that fighter's name is. And it's
Exactly.
an ultimate sign of respect.
I mean, they worked for it. They've earned it. They've earned that shot. The least I can do as an announcer is get their name right.
Yeah.
You know, and they appreciate it, and I appreciate them for it. And it's just an amazing thing, you know, to feel that emotion with them. You know, in addition to their being their first or their second fight. And you know, some fighters are like, man, I wish you could call my fights because you're the only guy that can get the crowd right up. I'm the only guy that gets my name right.
Yeah.
You know, and it's an honor. especially dealing with people of different cultures.
Yeah.
You know, like I said back at the
And fighting
and fighting.
attracts the different cultures. I mean, especially
Yes.
in the Muay Thai world.
Oh, everybody.
You're announcing last names that come from all over the globe.
all over the globe, literally.
First names that come from all over the globe.
Oh yeah.
And, you know, there are. I always like when I'm looking at the card and you announce a name, and it's like there are 4 consonants in this young fighter's first name
Yeah.
that Wayne didn't even say.
Yeah.
And he said it right. It is an art form, and
It
know,
is.
that's kind of what we're here to celebrate over wings and tater tots.
Yes.
What's next for you, man? What are you looking down the road at?
Oh man, what is next? I mean, there's so much more. You know, like I said, you know, not to give too many details, but you know, got a couple more TV deals in the works, a few more, you know, televised pro fights. Just bigger and better things. You know, I mean, just looking forward to more and more of the fight game. You know, still doing public speakings. Kind of got away from doing weddings, DJing. Actually, that's another going back to your previous point about how I got into this DJing. I used to DJ weddings a lot.
Yeah.
And when I announced the bridal party, somebody made a joke. Man, have you ever announced a fight before?
Right.
Because one of the most requested themes was Eye of the Tiger.
Right.
And, you know, for whatever reason.
Bringing them
you know,
into the arena.
Like maybe 60-75% of the time was Eye of the Tiger for the writing, you know, the bridal party announcement. And people would always joke.
It had
"Man,
nothing
you
to do with Wayne's suggestion.
Yeah. 9 times out of 10, it didn't. It was just one of those things, you know. But in terms of going back to what's next, it's just looking forward to bigger and better things. Definitely, like I said, I've been blessed to work with some of the best promoters locally, some of the best promoters, you know, worldwide. Would love to, you know, more exposure, you know, of course, in the international scene, and just going as far as I can go.
In the fight game, we have the perception that like the boxing game is kind of dying, and boxing's been around as long as there's been people.
Well, yeah,
so it's not going to die.
no.
But where is the top talent going, and what brings the top talent back to boxing? Because someone like Mike Tyson might go do any other thing right now instead of getting punched in the face.
You know, it just depends. There's a lot of great boxers out there. And it really depends on the fighter. You know, I mean, of course, you know, you got the guys like, you know, your Mayweathers and your Pacquiaos who, you know, were like, I guess the last 2 of the, you know, last great ones. You know, you got a lot of guys that are up and coming, you know, like your Keith Thurmans. Everybody loves Andre Ward. I mean, gosh, I went to the fights in Oracle, and to see that arena packed with so many people, the energy in that building was just amazing.
There was
You know,
literally
Rock Nation.
nothing
Right.
like a title prize fight.
Exactly.
It's better than UFC. I've
the-
seen a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this honestly and recorded.
Right.
The UFC fight is not a better package than a big time title fight.
Right.
Actually, I don't like to watch UFC live.
Well, they get the spectacle a lot better, and
whole-
it's a lot
yeah.
more mature.
The angles
In the boxing.
It's about the angles for me in UFC.
Yeah.
You end up watching TV the whole time you're in a UFC fight because you can't see what's going on. But in a prize fight,
Oh, you're there.
you don't have to see.
Right.
Because everybody lets you know what's going on. It's incredible.
I mean, for the volume of the crowd and the music shaking the table, you know,
Right.
ringside.
Right.
It's just like an experience. I mean, the first time I saw him fight was about a year and a half ago, on the first Rock Nation fight, you know, at Oracle, and it was an experience that, you know, I'll never forget. And of course, you know, I haven't met Andre. He's a great guy. I mean, outside of just being a great fighter, he's a great person.
Wow.
You know, just in terms of all his community work and just, you know, his demeanor.
Yeah.
And I think the sport definitely needs more fighters like that. You know, the guys that aren't, you know, the guys that are still humble and respectful, but yet they're some of the best athletes in the world. You know, the best fighters in the world.
Well, I think a lot of things are cyclical and generational
Yes.
as well, and I think we are going to get a generation that gets it. And
Oh, yeah.
boxing will always be back.
Yeah.
You know, it may suffer a bit of an attention grab from some other spectacle, but like Pete said, boxing's been around as long as
Oh,
people
yeah.
have been around.
It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I love pro boxing. I mean, I got started, you know, watching pro boxing, and I definitely, you know, that's kind of where my heart is, you know, in terms of
You look at
Sure.
how Mike Tyson built his empire. He built
Yeah.
it by knocking out inferior fighters
Yeah.
inside of 2 minutes. You know, and we can't stop watching.
can't
those
get
knockout
enough of
reels.
that.
Yeah, so you
Right.
didn't have to have all great fighters. You just had to have one
Yep.
great guy, and he was found. He's not even a diamond in the rough. He was a diamond inside of a piece of poop that was inside some dinosaur petrified poop, and Customato broke it out. So those guys are out there. You know they're
Yeah, there's greatness someplace that'll be dug out of extreme poverty.
Right.
Undoubtedly. And I agree that, you know, it's there has perhaps been a lull in the action, but they'll be back. Pete asked some deep questions.
he does. He really does.
Hey,
And I'm just trying to think.
we're in SAC talking about radio and DJing and spectacles. You know Toast Jackson?
Yes,
Oh man,
love Tosh.
that's my homeboy from
Toast,
deep,
yeah.
deep back.
Tosh is another guy I got to give mad props and shout outs to.
Yeah,
He's a great guy. He's a heck of a DJ, and he's truly an engineer. You know what it comes
he
to.
is truly an engineer,
And he can also, like you, he can also run a radio station.
Yes. Oh, I've seen him do it.
Yeah, he's well, he's been on the show.
Yeah, I've seen Tosh rescue clubs before.
Oh man,
I mean, like it's dead, and then Tosh
Yeah.
gets on the ones and twos, and all of a sudden the magic happens. And
Yep.
I'm like, I can really appreciate his art form and his talent
yeah.
and everything that guy does.
Well, I threw a party once.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and dad went to Australia. We had the house to ourselves. And, man, we went all out for this party. I was already out of high school. My brother was still in high school. And the party was kind of the event celebrating him because he had had a hell of a year. And so my mom and dad took off, and we kind of circled the wagons, and all my friends kind of got together and through this legendary rager. I mean, we had a dress code.
Nice.
We had a dress code. And the dress code, of course, was only for the dudes. If you showed up and you were wearing denim, we were like, sorry, man,
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
not here.
Yeah.
You got to be suited and booted here. And if you were a chick and you showed up in a denim mini skirt and a halter top, come right in, please.
Perfect.
Yeah. So we had valet parking. This party was crazy. There was a child conceived at this party.
A bunch.
Yeah, right, man.
You're saying just one?
one that we absolutely know of. And of course, we had the best DJ in the business,
Yes.
Toast Jackson. And man, he wrecked shop all night long. So my hat is always off to Tosh.
Yes.
And man, I love him too. Yeah, he's been on the show. Actually, I popped in on the radio station not too long ago, and I have pledged to pop in on the radio station much more frequently, and hopefully we'll be a little more integrated with Tosh and his events, because that dude's fun, man. He's
He
a good
is.
time.
A lot of fun.
Rolling good time.
And the funny thing, his depth of music is amazing.
Oh,
You know, between hip hop and country.
well,
and,
he is
I mean,
one
yeah.
of only two
That's right.
black program directors of a country music radio
Yeah.
station, and he does that.
He
And
runs-
he's a program director for the
Top
hip hop
40
station
station,
here.
yeah.
Yeah. So
And
He's
the
wearing
last
two
time I
hats.
saw him on Facebook, he was standing next to Bruno Mars.
yep.
Like, what the fuck?
And the time before that, he was standing next to.
Kenny Chesney, I
Yeah,
think.
Kelly
Yeah.
Chesney, yeah.
I mean,
So-
we're all agreeing on this. Like, this really happens.
Right.
And the thing is, it's not
I want to be
just
like Tosh when I grew up, you know?
everybody. It's not just like, hey, I'm gonna stand next to this dude because he works at the radio station. Everybody loves Tosh because he's genuine.
He really is.
I mean, he's country as a chicken coop.
Yeah.
So you know,
He really is.
yeah.
I mean,
Remarkable
yeah.
dude, man.
Nothing
Love
but-
him.
nothing
Can't
but
say
good to
enough
say
about him.
Yeah.
But this isn't the Tosh episode.
Nope.
Everybody go listen to the Tosh episode because it was
Yes.
pretty good too. Are you moving chairs like more chicken wings are coming?
No, I'm moving chairs like my arm needed to be up in the air.
Oh, okay. Anyway,
That's
so
right,
yeah,
too.
man, I'm glad that you have all kinds of good things happening
Yeah.
for you, more promoters getting to you.
Indeed.
You know, natural talent rises.
Yeah, and I mean, I got to say just a really quick thank you to the many fans. Questionable Stoppage magazine had a Ring Announcer of the Year poll, and the fans voted me Ring Announcer of the Year last
No
year.
shit.
Oh yeah, man, I voted too.
Yeah, and I appreciate it. Thank you, John. Thank you,
Yes.
thank you, Pete. I appreciate you both.
I didn't know to vote, but I would have.
It's all good.
I'm going to vote as much as I can.
And normally I don't get caught up in these things, but a friend of mine sent me a screenshot of the polls. Because like the night before, they're like, "Wayne, are you even paying attention?" I'm like, you know what? Nope. Whatever happens, happens. And I mean, the numbers when I saw them the next day were just like, whoa,
Yeah.
whoa.
Didn't know you knew that many people. huh?
Well, yeah, and I mean, to take like I forget the overwhelming percentage, like 60% of the vote or something like that.
yeah.
And then the second runner up took 20%, and everybody else like 6, 7, and 8 respectively.
Man, that is something. And
I'm just like, wow.
I want to slow down and really accentuate this because you may know 1,000 people in your life that may vote for you, and that would be a lot of people
Right.
to vote for somebody for something.
Yeah.
This means that when you stand up in front of thousands of people over the course of a couple of years, you are moving these people to go, oh yeah, that dude's fucking all right. I mean, that means you're doing something that's special. You know, because there's a lot of people that go out and do something like this, and they don't gather that kind of audience.
Yeah.
I mean, how many words do you think you say on a mic in a night? 1,000?
It all
1,500 words?
depends. I
It's
mean-
not much.
Yeah, this has been one of my busiest years. I mean, this has been my busiest year. I'm booked
Yeah.
for every weekend in October. I've done some things.
And October is when it slows down.
Yeah. Traditionally, it does. I mean,
Yeah.
October, November is usually slowing down, but I mean, for me, it's still going full steam ahead.
Yeah.
Gosh, even had an event, did 2 fights in one day.
Well, you know what? We have a lot of our friends on the show,
Mm-hmm.
and we're friends now.
Yes.
But you're not on the show because we're friends.
Mm-hmm.
We became friends because I was trying to get you.
Yes, and I appreciate it, John. I really do. Thank
You
you,
know,
so much for your
but-
patience.
But you're here because, sometimes not only do we acknowledge our friends, but every once in a while we see somebody who does such a remarkable job at something that we enjoy that we go, hey, we got to celebrate this.
I appreciate you.
So, yeah, man. And the thing is, you're a young man. You got many, dare we say, decades
Yes,
of this occupation ahead of you that we can enjoy.
indeed. I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I to be honest with you, I didn't know I'd be doing this long.
Yeah. How long?
It's been about 6 years now, I think.
Wow.
5, 6 years.
It was just
No,
something
6,
you
7
said,
years,
oh,
yeah.
I'll dabble in that. That sounds like fun,
really how-
right?
Exactly. It started off as just doing something for fun.
Yeah.
Something I've always wanted to do, to cross off my bucket list, and it turned into something that is a semi-career
Ends
now.
up being your thing.
Yeah. And like I said, I never knew that I'd do, the reach the levels that I've had, to go the places that I've had, to meet the people, that I have in the last few years. And I've met some tremendous and amazing, outstanding, people, fighters, athletes, celebrities, and just, the fans. Like I said, they really appreciate the work that I do. And I appreciate their energy and their love. I mean, it's what I feed off of. And it's kind of funny you mentioned, I did an intro in Tagalog for the first time.
Oh, no
This
kidding.
summer. And, I know a little bit, but not, overwhelming. But
Yeah, we're in Sacramento.
Right.
And you're a
And-
metropolitan dude.
exactly. I've done intros in Spanish before, and the crowd, they accept it, and
Yeah.
they clap, but
It's like, oh, look at the brother.
Right.
He's speaking Spanish.
Right.
Okay, good
Exactly.
job. Right on.
But when you're speaking Tagalog, it's like, if you say certain things with a different tone or a fluctuation in your voice, it could take on a totally different meaning. So
Yeah.
everybody that I practiced with was like, man, you've got to say it this way.
This is how you say it.
And when I said it, there was like this 2-second, which seemed like an eternity pause in
Mm-hmm.
the building.
Yes.
And everybody clapped. And I mean, they clapped like, yeah, you got it right, man.
Yeah, he did it. Like there was that moment of disbelief.
Right. And I just
And then
had
it was
to,
like, yes.
I had to take a step back because I'm like, I want to breathe, like, whew, thank you, but I have to keep announcing the show, I mean, but I'm like, hey, this just happened. So,
Yeah. It just
but yeah,
happened.
it was huge.
Well, if you continue to do that, man, and you continue to just guide the good time like you do, you're just going to suck more and more of us in. It's inevitable.
Yeah, I'm working on it. And the thing also is just really being humble, staying humble. It's like, you do every show. I do every show like it's my last show, I do every show like I'm doing it for TV,
Uh-huh.
even if like I know it's like it's an amateur event.
Yeah.
Still perform like it's
Well,
an,
again,
like it's a
that's what
professional show.
elevates the amateur fighters. They go, oh,
Exactly.
man, this is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had Wayne Wilson just said my name. This is
Yes.
I'm kicking his ass. That's what they
And
think.
the funny
Walk
thing
in
is,
there and whoop his ass.
and I get that a lot from a lot of fighters. I'll do one of their shows. I'll do another show for another promotion that I'm not at, and they're like, "Man, we got to get you at X, promotion, or we got to get you to do X show because that guy, he's good, but he's not Wayne Wilson."
Well,
Yeah.
this is it. Like, right, you're playing at the professional level, no matter where you're at. And
Exactly.
again, I'm going to use Vince Scully as the example.
Oh,
'cause
yeah.
he is the
He
standard.
really is, and I grew up, with
Right. You know,
influence there.
and it's clear that guy spends time prepping, and he doesn't go up and go, "Hey, John, tell me all the stories about you. Like, what kind of pizza do you like?"
Right.
No, he's in the marketplace finding these stories out, and he pulls stuff out that like the players are like, "How the fuck did you find that out?"
Yeah,
You
my
know?
mama didn't know that about me.
Exactly.
So you're
He does
doing this
research.
at a pro level. It's
Yeah.
clear. I mean, and we have other examples throughout our show. All these threads all tie together. You're doing the same things that your peers on the Break It Down show do, going that extra step.
That prep work.
Right. This is how I get
Yeah,
there.
the disciplined approach and the humility to honor the craft.
Yes.
And I know John will echo this too. Sean Peabody is a comedian. He's like, you don't say you're a headliner.
Right.
You perform like a headliner, and the headlining gigs come to you.
Exactly. And
That's a
what it is.
headliner, right? So that's what you're doing. You're doing this thing at no matter if you're doing like a PAL boxing thing or whatever.
Yep.
You're there doing it at that level, and I commend you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I thought Ellis Rodriguez said that.
Well, I think he did too.
Okay.
Yes, he did. But Sean for sure said it. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, hey, listen, we've had you for an hour, and we
Oh.
have wings in front of us.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do is I would like to turn this machine off. But first, I'd like to say thank you, man. We appreciate you coming on the show.
John, I appreciate you having me. Pete, I appreciate you having me. I
Thanks.
mean, definitely Break It Down show. Thank you, audience, for listening in.
And when you have events coming up,
Yes.
we definitely want to let our listeners know about the big stuff that's coming. What do you have coming? You got Muay Thai Global coming up this
Muay Thai
weekend?
Global coming up this weekend. I've got an MMA show that's tentative. Square Vision Pro Boxing in January. Titans Cage. Titans Cage MMA is coming up.
Titans Cage MMA, man.
yes.
Can't say enough good things about
No,
that.
Sean and Zenny. I mean, they are just such amazing people.
I'll tell you, and the way that they regulate those fights
Yes.
is perfect at the amateur level.
It is.
Because they're giving us such great fights. And then typically as soon as somebody gets in trouble,
Yep.
that's when they go, all right,
That's it.
this is the TKO. And the reason for that is
Safety of the fight. Well,
the safety of the fighters, the longevity of the
Yes.
fighters. You're getting guys who are doing their amateur debuts.
Mm-hmm.
You're getting guys who, as long as they are allowed some longevity at this point in their career, they really might have some.
right.
And so just, again, respecting and honoring the game that way.
It's a professional amateur event.
Yeah,
That's what
absolutely.
happens.
I mean,
really
it
is.
cannot be executed better than they do it. They
Exactly.
do a spectacular job.
Yep.
So I'm glad that they've partnered with you. I'm glad that you're guiding those events. And thank you. What else? Anything else we're promoting?
Let's see. I think that's it for me for this year. Like I said, next summer, look at definitely doing some more pro boxing, some more televised MMA events. And like I said, I'm trying to, my mental calendar is like going in my head right now because I'm already booking shows for January, February, March of next year.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, I'm on Facebook, Mr.Wayne.Wilson.
Yeah.
Twitter is at Big Wayne77. And
Big Wayne 77.
Yep. My high school jersey number.
And as a really shitty collegiate fighter that considered going pro only to make some money from it and lose a lot,
Yeah.
never had my name announced by a real announcer. So I appreciate what you do for those guys because that literally it was my coach. He'd go up there and I because it was silly. I would make like 15 nicknames, like the master of disaster and all that kind of thing. But it's not the same when your coach says it. It's a whole lot more when you say it. So for all the
Definitely
fighters out
appreciate
there
it.
that you do that for, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Man. All right. Wayne Wilson, everybody.
You got to eat these wings that Kelly put out there for us. These
Indeed,
ones.
indeed.
Those two on that side right there.
So Wayne Wilson, and you're listening to the Break It Down Show.